Howdy. So, today has been productive, actually. Not in any meaningful way, but meaningful to me and to my mother, which is enough. So, started the day, immediately got into Breath of Fire 2, and finished it, actually. Surprisingly, I expected to take... Finished it at around 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that. I expected it to take all day, but it did not. Probably because by the end I was jacking up the experience a bit. Granted, I finished with an average party level of 45, which I don't think is unreasonable. Because I don't think the value I was messing with was giving me a straight multiplier. I think it was just kind of somehow, well, not locking the experience, but it almost seemed to be capping what I was getting. Like fights against rare enemies that I should have been getting extra experience from, I didn't seem to be getting. So it was more like I was getting an even spread of experience. I think the value may have been like... I think the game changes the amount of experience it gives you based on party members. And despite the value not making much sense, unless it's only when you have 3 or more, which would make sense, actually. 3, based on how many party members are alive at the end of the fight. Because whenever I'd finish with a party member down, I'd be like, these guys, the rest of these dudes, or in some cases finish with just one party member, I'd be like, he's going to get a ton of experience. And it was significantly less than I was usually getting. So yeah, I think the value I was messing with was actually determining the amount of party members alive at the end of the fight. And that was applying some kind of multiplier. It was definitely not a flat multiplier, I don't think. So I'm guessing 0 is... Zero was when I was... You can set up where you can watch these values. And when I was watching them yesterday, trying to figure out what they were doing, that one pretty much stayed at 0, but that was before I had more than 2 party members. So maybe 0 was just 1 or 2 party members, 1 was 3, and 2 was 4. And anything beyond that was giving extra layers of experience. It's worth noting I played most of the game with that value set at 1. So I was just getting... So, like, with a full party, I was getting as if the game was treating it as a... By my math, the game was treating it as if I had 5 party members. Since experience is split evenly among your party, it makes sense that the amount would vary based on how many party members are active at the end. So I guess more or less with the multipliers I was doing, it was kind of getting it closer to everybody getting full base experience from the fight. Let's say the fight was going to give 500 experience. That's not an easy to round number. Let's say it was going to give 400 experience. That's 100 per party member. So instead, I had it get, I had the game give... somehow the game gave instead 16 1,600 experience. That way, each member got the 400. So, that kind of thing. And it made using all the characters easier, because unlike the first game, only the members of your it's the original Breath of Fire treated it like everyone in your party that wasn't dead was in the battle, and so like you had 8 party members. So when your party was full, um, all experience was split 8 ways. With this, it's just the 4 that are with you, or however many. Meaning any characters on the shelf, so to speak, start to fall behind. And that's how I ended up with like that underleveled solo area that I was complaining about a few days ago. But anyway, I feel like, why am I trying to justify my cheating? I just wanted to finish the game. Like by the end, I had the encounters turned off, and it's worth noting that I had to put in the effort with the last few bosses, like big time. I had to put in the effort. The final boss still took about 25-30 minutes to beat. It didn't help that I kept failing to prepare for a good bit, so I was giving myself artificial difficulty by not having healing items and crap with me. Hubris. But man, I didn't last 3 rooms in the final dungeon with the encounter rate. It was god awful. And the fights weren't even too much of a challenge, they were just such a massive waste of time. And unlike the first game, this game's got basically repels, right? And unlike the first game, which was, you know, the repel was absolute, it's very easy to feel like your repel isn't doing jack shit in the second one. And I don't understand I don't understand how it works, because the first game pretty much felt like if you've got this active, there will be no encounters. And it seems like in this one, my best guess is there is a specific value check per tile, and it's jacked up or down in certain areas, and probably applying the repel just bumps it a few points in your favor, but not enough. It also doesn't tell you when it wears off, which is annoying. So I am not ashamed to admit that about 45 minutes into the final dungeon, which again I had only progressed like 3 or 4 rooms into the first half of this 2-half, if I hadn't turned off encounters, this would have taken hours, like 3 or 4 hours, not counting potentially dying and having to slog back through it again, even though there was like a halfway point. Like, I just wanted to see the end of this game. I feel like I'd put in my time. You know, average time is, 40 to 60. I put that in on the first, while I was playing it on my classic. And so having to start over, just no. But I did get to see the ending. I got to see the best ending. And it was good. It was a good game. Right at the last second, it punched me in the gut with a line that I wasn't expecting, and so that was fun. Like in a good way, like seriously, good kind of punch in the gut that I wasn't expecting. This game did emotional stuff fairly well. It managed to surprise me multiple times in how it treated certain characters. So kudos to that, because I was expecting, a lot of times with this game, you'll get like, oh, well, there was one big consequence in the beginning of the game, so don't worry about anybody. It'll all be fine. No. Nuh-uh. This game is not afraid to go, no, man, they're dead. Just like straight up. Get over it. They're not just gonna turn back up. They're dead. Hi. Though it never happened. I don't think this is a spoiler, really. But there will be minor spoilers for a different game. I won't get into all that. What I will say is, despite all that, the game still didn't have the balls to kill a party character. So, you'll have to look elsewhere for that. But, yeah, it was pretty good. Then, I swept and mopped the dining room, which is fairly large. It only got me because I had to do so much of it kind of hunched over. In a way, cleaning this house, sometimes I wish I was shorter, because at least I could stand straight up while doing things like sweeping and mopping. Because I feel like if I could stand straight up, they'd hurt less. But I was well rewarded with finally getting to start Persona 5 Strikers. And my god, I am just on cloud 9 with this game right now. It is so wonderful to be back with these characters. I am not above admitting that, like, one of the first screens was a text message from one of your party members, and he's texting the main character. But it's just like, hey man, been a while. I'm just like, fuck yeah, it has, man. It's good to see y'all again. And I'm not afraid to admit I teared up a bit. That was, just... I played the original Persona 5 at a very vulnerable point in my life, and I'm not going to say it changed my life or it taught me new values or anything. No, it kept me company during probably the worst 2 weeks of my life. And on top of that, it's fantastic. You start there and you move up. Not only is it fantastic, because it's visually stunning, it's fun to play, the music is amazing. It's just a very nice, wonderful package. But like I said, I played it during a vulnerable point in my life, and it kept me company. So, while I loved 4 and kind of loved 3, I didn't like playing 3, if that makes sense. 3 needs a definitive edition. It really, really does. Like, when I say I don't like playing 3, it's because you either have to choose between a bit of a watered down experience as far as traversing the overworld, or you sacrifice full control of your party. And it's like, okay. So I can either walk around school and the city and stuff like I'm used to from Persona 4, or I can actually have full control of my party actions. Why are you making me decide between these two things again? Oh, it's because the enhanced edition was on a portable system. Got it. Also, that one didn't come with the final chapter, I don't think. So, yes, no, seriously, you don't even have to update it. Can we just get a complete package for 3? Like, you don't have to re-record things. You don't have to... Just give us all of it together in one package. Please. But back to the point, 4 will always be special to me because it's the one that I played first, but, like, right now, and unless I'm in a similar dark place and Persona 6 keeps me company there, 5 will always have a place very near and dear to my heart. So it's just fantastic to be back in the world with these characters. About 10 minutes in, the whole old crew was just kind of sitting around talking. And I said out loud, this could be the whole game, and I'd be happy. But it's not. It plays fun. It's really interesting because I figured it was just going to be Persona 5 Warriors based on like very little bit I'd seen. But it's a lot more in depth than that. It really is just kind of Persona 5, but the fighting's action based now. That really is it. And it's fantastic. It looks amazing. And while I didn't notice it as, like when I was playing Age of Calamity, I didn't notice much slowdown or anything like that because I was too enamored with what was going on. I am afraid that if I played Age of Calamity immediately after this game, that it just would completely fail to to stand up. It's just like, I'm afraid that like I wouldn't be able to look at Age of Calamity the same way again. But like and I have an old PS4. I was worried that like it was gonna not run at a full 60, which as far as I can tell it is, or like I'd get some slowdown, and so far no. And I think that comes from two places. One, obviously a dedicated home console is going to have more power than what Nintendo does, because Nintendo manages, one of Nintendo's biggest edges is how much it manages to undercut the price of its competitors. A Switch is only $300, and at the same time the OG PS4 was still selling for like $450, I think, not accounting for the Pro, which I'm pretty sure was $500 at the time. So you could almost buy two Switches for that. You could buy a Switch and a Switch Lite, which is $100 cheaper. And reel it back in. Where was I? Oh yeah, the other thing is, I think having the fights compartmentalized to the same sort of, to a very similar engaging in a fight is very similar to the original Persona 5. And then when you get in the fight, that's when it's different. Yeah, that made sense. So like, instead of being a massive field of enemies, you get like an area. It's like it's an RPG, so, or the exploration is area based instead of being a giant map. And instead of having hundreds of enemies on screen at any given time, you activate a fight with 20 to 60 enemies so far, and then you have that fight, and then it's back to just the activation enemies, the overworld enemies, I guess. So it works like an RPG in that sense, except it's just the fights themselves that are different. But it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. The characters are a lot more mobile. There's practically platforming. It's just so much fun. And it's a style that really does gel with 5 in a way that I don't think it would with the others, because 5 was already so flamboyant. And You know, in 4, the characters aren't exactly doing cartwheels and giant jumps, and in the Royal version, they have a straight up grappling hook. And so, you know, like, nobody in Persona 3 had a grappling hook. Though I can see a couple of them managing to hurt themselves pretty badly with a grappling hook, so it's probably a good thing they didn't have one. Anyway, yeah, I am excited to play more Strikers. Loud noise incoming, I bet. Yep, there we go. Thanks for that, Ben. And I'm even going to bed at a decent time. I don't think it's midnight yet, or if it is, it hasn't been for long. So, I'll go to bed, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.